everyone, I'm Annie. I work in adult services and information at the Welland Public Library. So today I thought we'd do something fun. We're going to make a hot mess canvas with our Cricut Maker. It's a wonderful process. It does take a little bit of time. So what you're going to need is you're going to need some acrylic paint in various colors. We've got about 5 different colors here to start with. A large paintbrush, of course your canvas. So you're going to need a weeding tool as well, some transfer tape, just a stencil brush, and of course our Cricut. We're going to put a base layer of the multicolors, let that dry. We're going to put our stencil on, then let that dry, then we're going to paint the whole canvas white, then we're going to remove the stencil. Okay, so I did a video for all of the processes, so let's try it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do for our hot mess canvas is we're going to take our acrylic paint and we're just going to paint various colors all over this canvas. Okay, so we're just going to continue with that until our whole board is totally covered with paint. This will probably take a good 6 hours to dry, so yeah, give yourself time for the drying process as well. Okay, so let's just finish it up and cover the whole white canvas with paint. So while we're waiting for our paint to dry on our canvas, we'll go ahead and go over to our Cricut Maker. So we'll be signing into Design Space, so you'll have your account, just sign in on the computer. And we're going to go to a new project. And I've uploaded a template of what we're going to do today, so I'm going to find it. So here we go, it's the sleigh with Believe in it. So I'm going to click it. Now it's green, so I'm going to go Insert Image. Okay, so this is where I'm going to size it. And since we have a fairly big canvas, I am going to make it just a little bit bigger. So you can pull the edges, or you can unlock the lock at the top and make them specific height and size. So this here, I think we have 12 inches, so I'll probably go over to almost 12 and then maybe down just a little bit. I think I'll do the height, I'll unlock it and then do the height probably just a little higher. Okay, so there, that looks good. So next what we're going to do is click on Attach over on the corner here. So we click Attach, and then we're going to say Move It. I have my grid mat here with my vinyl all ready to go. So we have one last look at it before we print. I can move it around on the grid mat on the screen. I'm going to say Continue. So we're going to set the base material now, which is going to be vinyl. And I'm going to set the default pressure to more. Okay, so this is already here. So I'll just load the vinyl, make sure that it's nice and stuck onto the grid mat. Press it down, just make sure that it's good and stuck there. So over on the Cricut, the load button is flashing. So I'm going to line up the grid marks and press in the load button. Okay, and now we're ready to go. I'll press the flashing Cricut button. Okay, so it's all set to go. So it's starting to cut out our vinyl. We can watch how the process of it on the screen if we like. So this one will probably take a little bit, so probably like 10 minutes, okay? it's 100% finished, it's going to unload from the Cricut. So I have to press the unload button and that sends it out. I'm going to remove the vinyl from the grid mat. And I know it's kind of hard to see, but our design is on the vinyl. It's all cut out there. So our next thing we'll do is we're going to have to weed the parts that we don't want on the canvas. Okay, so the next thing we have to do is we have to weed the excess material that's on the vinyl. So we'll take our weeding tool and we're just going to pick off anything that we don't need once we paint it. So just really think about it lying on the canvas and what you'll want to be painting in between. Okay, so if you just kind of pull them, then lift up and get rid of the excess and just keep going until you're finished the process. So I did do one ahead of time, and what the final result will look like is this. Okay, so that's everything on our stencil that we will be transferring over to our canvas next. Okay, so the next step is you can see that our canvas is all dry. I let it dry overnight, so probably about a good 15 hours or so, and it also feels very flat and smooth. The next step we're going to do is we're going to put the transfer tape over the stencil. So I've pre-cut a piece of press and seal, or you can get regular Cricut transfer tape, which is a lot more expensive. So I'm just going to apply this to the sticky side down onto the stencil, and I'm going to smooth it out best I can. So there's a couple of tools you can use. Just make sure it's all flat. I'll try and get all the air bubbles out. Okay, just make sure it's all nice and stuck down. I'm just going to flip it over and just do it from the back as well. Okay, so now we're ready to put the stencil onto the canvas. So I'm going to take the backing off this stencil, and hopefully it'll stick. So this, you have to be really careful just to make sure that you get all the edges stuck down when you're pulling off the back of the transfer tape. Okay, so I've got the backing off now. So what I want to do is flip it over, and I'm going to put this right onto the stencil. So try and center it best you can. And again, you're really going to have to push this down. Make sure that it's very, very flat and stuck to the canvas. So we'll use the tool again just to push it down. Okay, and then I'm going to turn it over as well to the back of the canvas and press it from that side as well. Okay, so once you feel that it's really stuck on the canvas, we're going to pick off the transfer tape. So this is, again, something to do very, very slowly. And maybe just have your weeding tool there just to help hold down any of those little ones that seem that they want to come back up. But this is actually stuck pretty well. Just want to make sure that this is quite flat. There's a few air bubbles I got here, so I'm just going to take them, push them down again, trying to get a little bit flatter. But now you can see that our stencil is on our canvas. Okay, so we have our canvas and our stencil, and we've made sure that the stencil is really down in place very well. We've gone to the back and used it, just trying to flatten it out, and so it looks good. So the next step is we're going to paint this in white. So you can either use a foam brush, so you would just take the edge of the foam brush and dab it around the stencil, or you can use a stencil brush, which I have one. So we're just going to take a little bit of paint and we're going to just dab it all around the stencil. We don't want to use too much paint because we don't want it to seep underneath. So it's just going to be a light layer, and we're going to go around the whole, all of the stencil, just kind of dabbing it as we go. So you get the idea. You don't want to use too much paint because we don't want the paint seeping underneath the stencil onto the canvas. We want our lines to be fairly firm like they are now. So this is a little time consuming. So yep, just keep with it. So for the rest of the canvas, I did use the sponge brush just because it would take probably less time. So I'm still going to dab it and just cover up all the surfaces. And it does take quite a bit of white paint, so once we finish this, I think we'll just let it dry, and we may just have to go over it with another coat of white. Okay, so the first coat's on, the whole board is covered. Just gonna do the sides a little bit. Make sure none of it's dripping. Okay, so let's just let that dry for a couple of hours, and then we will do a second coat probably. So we've let our canvas dry overnight, so it's all nice and dry. So we're gonna come to the very last stage of our process, and we're going to remove the stencil from the canvas. I didn't bring a weeding tool with me, so I'm just gonna use a pair of tweezers. You can use an X-Acto knife, you can use a pretty well anything, I guess, just to lift up the stencil. So hopefully this will work out, so let's give it a try. So again, it's just like doing the weeding from before. We're just going to pull it, then we'll have to weed in between all the letters, and then we'll see if it worked out. So I'm just going to continue this and be right back. So I have finished the weeding process. We've removed all the excess. So our hot mess canvas is finished. You can see it turned out pretty well. You can see all the colorful background that we painted originally. And once we took out all the excess stenciling, then it left us with the design just on the white paint. So for our first attempt at that, I think it turned out pretty well. I guess the next time, if I was to do it again, I might use a bit better quality of paint. There is a little bit of seepage around some of the letters, but all in all, pretty happy for our first hot mess canvas.